All right. So I'd love to start with, there was a couple of things that really struck me about this film, one of which is your lead character, played by Elsie Fisher. I mean, this is a movie where the main character had to carry the entire film, which is hard, I think, for someone like Amy Adams or Meryl Streep to do, let alone a young woman. I also know from experience that having an actor carry a film requires a very special director-actor relationship. So can you talk about, how did you find Elsie? How did you work together? How did you help her carry your film?
Right. Yeah, I mean, it felt like a big ask in casting this because I wanted it to feel like a shy person pretending to be confident and not a confident person pretending to be shy, which is what most of the young actors would feel like coming in to read for it. It felt like the person that was dispositionally right to play Kayla wouldn't show up to an audition, as I wouldn't show up to an audition at that age, or now, really, because it's terrifying. And a lot of the kids I would meet, I met like every 13-year-old actor in the world, and most of them would come in and they'd be very, very interesting when you talk to them. 100 things were going on in their face and their voice, and then you give them a scene and they instantly snap into, happy is like this and sad is like that. And they sort of simplify their chaos really quickly into a performed version of what they think a kid should be like. And Elsie was the only one that could really do it, do Kayla as a performance. When I see it, I don't see Elsie playing Kayla, I see Kayla playing all the people she wants to be moment to moment for whatever situation she's in. So I tested her 7 times, but I never saw another kid more than once. It was a thorough process of testing her just because it's a movie where it opens with a 3-minute monologue and then she doesn't speak for 10 minutes after that. So she has to sort of be able to be incredibly articulate or incredibly believably inarticulately articulate, and then to be sort of a silent actor. But the whole process was just a lot of rehearsal, and that was mostly for the script more than her. When it sounded wrong, I knew it was the script's fault and not hers, and I told her all the time, this movie is coming to you, not the other way around. You know what it's like to be this. I don't. No one does. My disconnect from her is twofold. I was never a 13-year-old girl, and I was never a 13-year-old right now. And both of those things lend themselves to a specific experience. And I didn't want to make a nostalgic film. I didn't want to make a film that was about my experiences. It's not about my younger sister or my younger self. It's about, in the way that it's personal, it's about me now and the way I struggle with my own anxiety. So just empowering her. And with kids, empowering them and giving them the permission to be themselves, to be inarticulate. The experience of being a kid for me is you just drank a glass of milk and you're like sounding like this, you can't talk, So it really was just making an environment on set where they can be comfortable. And, my favorite, it's like I wanted to have the, I didn't see her as a kid. I saw her as Jenna Rowlands, you know what I mean, or Philip Seymour Hoffman. Truly, I'm just. And my job on set in rehearsal every day was just to be the biggest Elsie Fisher fan in the world, which I was. Truly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, that's excellent.
That's 9 answers.
That's what we want. Can you talk a little bit? Were there any kinds of, because you gave, obviously it sounds like you gave her a deal of freedom. So can you talk, were there surprising discoveries that were made?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there was like I had written Facebook into the script, and then all the kids told me no one uses Facebook anymore. So that line Kennedy has saying it to the mother, it was actually the kids saying that to me. So there was obviously decorative stuff that was informed by it. Like Gucci, I don't know what that means. That's hers. She would say that on set every day. Okay. I'd be like, Elsie, how you doing? She'd be like, Gucci. I'd be like, what? And then I started doing it just to embarrass her because older people doing things is embarrassing to young people.
Yes.
And then it got so banal that gaffers were being like, is this Gucci or not? And then the videos were filmed the last few days, and I knew she had to have a sign-off because all the kids that make videos have little sign-offs. So I was like, oh, of course it should be Gucci. So she literally has the last word of the film, which is nice.
That's lovely.
Yeah.
Good. And you mentioned just a little bit ago that in part this movie is also about you dealing with your own anxiety. And I will say that one of the things that was really striking to me was 2 feelings, loneliness and dread. Even just the way Elsie or Kayla walked. I just think about that pool scene where she's walking in her bathing suit out to the pool. And so though both of those feelings, like dread about like any kind of ordinary experience or moment, and just like a profound disconnection despite
Yeah.
all of the ways to connect.
Yeah, of
Can you
course.
speak about that?
Yeah,
And-
totally. Yeah, part of it was trying to, a lot of movies aim, and this isn't really aimed at young people, but a lot of movies, that portray young people that are great, or stories even, like Harry Potter or something. People think Harry Potter to kids is escapism, and I don't. I think it's realism to them, that walking over and entering a social situation feels like walking over to try to slay the basilisk. I mean, these things are actually more true to them. It's like why Fault in Our Stars is like, I'm dying of cancer. It's because like that's what love feel like.
Yes.
Life feels like life and death. So life and death are often introduced into young people's stories, which is really beautiful. And I just wanted to, can you elevate the feeling of, can you somehow articulate and convey the feeling of what she's feeling with the actual experiences she's going through, which are pretty banal. You know what I mean? My hope is that people leave the movie going, man, that was intense. And I go, what happened? I guess she just went to a pool party, went to the mall. Not much happened. So the idea was just, if you can sync the audience's heart rate with hers, it will be effective no matter what the situation is, because they are that significant to her. And yeah, I mean, that's how I feel in my life. I mean, I was having panic attacks backstage at the Vic Theater instead of in a bathroom at a girl's house before a pool party, but the feeling is the same. Really, I do believe that.
Yeah.
I feel like the feelings and thoughts she has access to are as big of feelings and thoughts as you'll ever have access to. And I don't know. I'm really wandering. My thoughts are totally wandering.
That's okay.
But there's obviously a sort of like pretty sexist thing in a lot of narrative things that like, stories about the human condition are about a 60-year-old male poet in the woods. You know what I mean?
No, thank you.
And why can't? I hope the story also serves her specific experience as a young female, but also I see myself in her. I hope a 50-year-old man can see themselves in her. I think she's as indicative of the current experience of being a person as anybody. So that was my approach to it. And then there's another thing that I totally forgot. What was the last thing? Dread and then...
Dread and loneliness.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing is just the things of the internet. You're hyper-connected, you're lonely, you're overstimulated, you're numb, and to do a portrayal of the internet, for me, that was descriptive and not pedagogical. There's a good college word for you. Not instructive. People that speak with authority on the internet, I find, have no idea what the internet actually is. And I think there's a subtler conversation to have about the internet than Russia. You know what I mean? Like, which is like, that's how we're talking about the internet. And I think there's a sort of personal tummy sort of way that the internet plays out that I wanted to talk about, which is just a more indescribable thing. If I could describe it, I would have written an essay. You know? But
you gave
I
us a
can't,
visual
yeah,
essay
exactly.
instead.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, good. Great.
I will just say, I'll know I'm at DePaul. This is the most well-lit interview I've ever done. One of these things. Very impressive.
Can you talk, there's a couple of things I want to get at. So for this particular film, you took on the role of writer and director, which are two separate roles, but you're occupying them as one person. Did you think about how you would be directing in the writing process, or did you separate those roles for yourself, or how did you navigate that?
I definitely wrote it to direct it. I had written some other things and maybe tried to direct them and they had fallen apart, and for good reason. And this was like, I want to write something that I can direct. So I sort of wrote it to what I perceived my strengths maybe could be, which is, I thought scene work and acting. I loved acting, and that was sort of my passion. And I felt like that's what I was most passionate about in film, where my tastes really lied, was the micro stuff of performances. But when I was writing it, I was picturing it way more like verite docu-style. I thought it was like, I'll just make like The Wrestler with a 13-year-old girl or something. Truly, and then I realized, like, in the course of conceiving it in pre-production, realized that it did call for something more stylized, that to be true to her emotions called for something more stylized than just base naturalism, because to just coldly observe her actually didn't do her feelings justice, because being a kid is so surreal and sensorily overwhelming, so I wanted that to be conveyed in the film. But yeah, I mean, this is very new to me, and I really, despite everything I say. I really can't speak with authority on any of this stuff, and it was everything. It was changing the entire time.
Sure.
I mean, the vision of the film was changing completely. But I also tried, just I love writing, and really, it's the thing that I get the most pure form of enjoyment out of. So for this script, I was in a place in my life where I just needed to do something that I enjoyed. So the writing, I was just writing and not worrying about, is this logistic?
Right.
Or, I'll probably never write a moving car scene again. Do you know what I mean? Like that stuff's no fun. But yeah, a bunch of lessons.
No, I think you can't, if you're thinking too much about production in the writing process, you'll stop yourself from doing a lot of things.
Yeah,
So
exactly. But
that makes sense.
probably don't have it snowing.
Right.
I was told that, so I didn't do that.
Yeah. And then, did you have people on your team that helped bring your vision to life? I mean, you talked about how you wanted this to be a very more surreal sort of sensory experience, and I think that really came through both visually and with the sound design. So can you talk about people that were on your team that, I don't know, that inspired you or got you excited or helped do something with your vision that you didn't even know was possible?
Yeah, everybody really. I mean, my cinematographer, Andrew Wade, went to DePaul. Yes. Is Cooper here? Cooper, are you here? His brother
Cooper
goes
should be
here.
sorry.
So we've worked together for a while. He shot, I did stand-up for a long time, and he shot my last two specials, and I've directed a few stand-up specials. He shot those as well. So we came as a little team, and then we did a lot of testing before the movie was even greenlit of the screens, because we wanted to shoot everything practical, no screen replacements and everything. So that was a challenge, but so we got on that pretty early. Jennifer Lilly, the editor, just was the entire post-production process, and I looked to her for so much of the film. Anna Meredith, our composer, who's a very late addition into the film. I wrote temp music for the film, and it was okay. It held the film tonally, but it wasn't great. And stumbled on her music, and she just really is the true subconscious of the film, and she's a classical composer out of Scotland that also does electronic music on the side. And I was really looking for electronic music that was warm and human. It had to be electronic because it's a digital story, but a lot of electronic music is very cold and masculine and aggro. And she writes really expressive but also very theatrical music, and I wanted it to be foreground music, music that made her experience larger, not smaller. So she was a big part of it. Sam Lysenko, our production designer, did incredible work, and yeah, everybody. I mean, like a small example is like Erica Severin, who worked in the props department, like the letter that Kayla gives to Kennedy after the pool party. I just had a folded letter, that was my idea, and Erica comes up and is like, I used to make these in middle school, and had the little football folded thing, and I was like, oh, that's so right and perfect and important, and as it is as an important part of the film as anything.
Yes.
And that happened everywhere, and the door was wide open for those ideas all the time.
Yeah.
And the kids. I mean, the kids were the true, it was, I went every day. I would go up, every Saturday in pre-production, I would go up to the school and meet the extras, just so I could have a conversation with the extras, just so they knew me by the time they got to set. And I'd have, meet them, what's your name? You have any special talents? And I met this girl. What's your name? She said her name. Do you have any special talents? I have eczema. I was like, whoa. I was like, you're the best. And kids would come to me being like, I have to tell you something. I've never been in a movie before. And I'm like, what? Are you kidding me? Oh man, you're gonna love it. So the kids were just amazing, and like, they're the voice of the film. For sure.
No, I thought the way you privileged the kids was really fantastic.
Yeah, appreciate it.
And another detail, like the folded note, but I have to say, maybe this is silly, but I was so surprised by the SpongeBob reveal that it was a hard drive. I was like, oh, that's such a great little detail.
Yeah. But it's almost, it's just as meaningful for me to have her staring at that thing. But that it's all encapsulated in that stupid, I love SpongeBob. I'm saying SpongeBob is back to my childhood. SpongeBob is like the true transgenerational figure, really. Like, I was young, and SpongeBob is huge for me, and it's just as big for kids now. But that was important too. To really put in specific cultural references that scare people or make things dated. There's like a wonder.
It's
That's hilarious.
they like reptiles
Yeah,
here.
I got it. It said halfway to Q&A with a drawing of a dragon, as if that would be subtle. What did you say?
It's Reptar.
Reptar. You guys know Reptar? Yeah. Damn, I thought that was after your time. Anyway, but to have these specific cultural touchstones, there's a Wonder Woman poster in her room, and that came out the week we were filming. You know what I mean?
Wow.
There's an Abbey Road poster in her room, which is like so beautiful to me because I'm like, I know that Kayla never even listened to the album. She's just a fan of the picture because she's seen it around. There's just this sort of cultural backwash that's happening is really interesting to me. There's a kid in a Steph Curry jersey. I think that's awesome. It's like ridiculous. The Hamilton poster, that kills me. Every single 13-year-old that came into audition, I would have them listen to headphone music. Whenever they were talking to the dad, and I'd play the dad. And every single time, I'd be like, listen wherever you want. And you just hear like, how does a bass do? It's like so funny. Oh my God, it's very sweet of them.
Yeah. Great.
Oh boy.
So can you talk a little bit? I think a lot of people, they know you from a lot of different realms. And to me, you seem like you're a very fluid creator. And so can you talk about the shift? Yeah. The shifts from, like, you do music, you do comedy, you do poetry, now you're doing movies.
Yeah,
You're going to be a painter? What do you do?
Yeah, I don't know. Truly, probably earlier in my career, I was like wanting to be the man of many hats or whatever, and that's like, that gets old, and like that's actually like totally based in my own ego of wanting to be like I don't care about that. Like, truly, like a chef doesn't call himself like a slicer / dicer / cooker. You know what I mean? Like, I really feel like I make things, I write things and make them, and I was suited for this one maybe. I don't know. I don't have a great answer to that. Because I'm like not self-conscious about that, but like I can picture that guy in my head that's like running around doing everything. I'm like, chill out. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to do that. I'm just trying to follow my interests, and I kind of got boxed into a very specific thing when I was 16. Being a stand-up, and I sort of was able to evolve it to a place where I actually enjoyed doing it. And then I was like, I think I did this, and I want to kind of re-choose my life again.
Yeah.
And this is what I chose. My first love was theater, staging things, cutting scenes, working with actors. And I kind of tried to shoehorn that into stand-up. And then eventually I was like, I think this would be and this was absolutely the most enjoyable thing I've done.
Good.
For sure.
Good. No, I think it's important to be able to make those transitions. I think a lot of people get stuck in certain categories.
Yeah, and just try to enjoy it, or the good thing about the creative process, I think, again, I am someone that's gotten incredibly lucky, so giving like advice about career stuff is just, don't listen to me because I've gotten a little too lucky for it, but the good thing about the creative process that I do absolutely know deeply, and this is something I tell myself all the time, is that the best thing about the creative process is available to everyone right away. That's actually the great part, is that like the actual deeply meaningful, fulfilling thing is the thing you can all do right now, which is just this work of making things and starting and having a vision of something and making it and seeing it fall short and measuring the distance and doing it again and seeing that change. That just sort of like artistic actualization or whatever it is can start right away. And then I'm not saying you should care about getting successful and making a living, for sure, but that should be just a small amount of the chips, and like you should be grounded in enjoying it. And if you don't enjoy doing it, get out, truly, because that's the only thing you'll ever really have control over.
Absolutely.
I could fail tomorrow and some ostracizing backlash or something, and I'm gone. I will still be able to continue the work I've done for myself. Not saying I'll be happy, or it's very easy to sit on this stage having a film just screened and say all these things. But yeah, that's what I tell myself. Oh my God, what did you even ask about that I got there? You're like, what did you have for breakfast?
What did you have for breakfast?
I had like a bao, an egg and sausage bao from Wow Bao.
Wow Bao, yeah.
That's pretty good. Bao chicka wow bao.
Let's go back. I'm kind of jumping all over the place.
Yeah, let's go back. Let's go away from
we're gonna go back.
Sausage and egg baos. Yeah, for sure.
So can you talk a little, I mean, I don't know if do you think of yourself as someone who grew up on the internet? 'Cause, like, I certainly did not. I'm probably like 20 years older than you. So can you talk about like your experiences growing up on the internet and what kinds of things you were really, like that was most important to translate into this film?
I thought I grew up on the internet until I met these kids, and then I think I realized I probably grew up with the internet. I think you grew up on the internet way more than I did.
Probably.
And that like stupid conversation that idiots having in the mall about the generation gap shrinking is something I do believe. You're all what, 19, 20-ish? You are closer to her than me. You know, really, you are closer to being 13 than you are to being 27.
And for you, what is that distinction?
It's about it's really a social. What arrived was social media. This is gonna. I'm gonna really try to keep my thoughts coherent because I could literally talk for way too long and not make any sense. What I think showed up was social media more than the internet. I mean, the internet really just. And this is gonna sound. I don't want to do some stupid TED talk. The internet. No, but truly. But the internet. The problem is this conversation. There's no place to have these conversations.
And yet they're important.
Yeah, well, they can't be had because the internet, once you are literate in it, it takes away your ability to articulate something long form. So, it wasn't the internet showing up because the internet was just like the information superhighway, and who gives a shit? It was really social media, I do think, which was some form of, and I didn't have this. The internet, when it was me, was like, oh, YouTube, post something you do there. As opposed to what the internet is now and YouTube and all these things. Live there, be there. Facebook, MySpace, what I had, create a little website, your interests, your profile picture. That's very ornamental or something. What the internet is now for kids, Twitter and Instagram, what do you think? What do you look like? What do you think? What do you look like? Those are base, weird, deep questions that are being asked of kids. And the thing that's happening, and these decisions that are being made by a bunch of men in Silicon Valley that have absolutely no, on average, social skills, are making decisions about entire generations' neurochemistry by updating an app and raising their hand in a room. And there's a sort of like, bullshit, whatever, this is hard to explain, you take a horse and buggy to work, it takes an hour. Then you invent a car and you get to work in 30 minutes. Great, you've actualized that and you've streamlined it. There's no proof that you should do that with your social life and your emotions. That you should streamline your emotions. You can talk to 5 people and now you can talk to 5,000. You were connected with 12 people, now you're connected with everybody. Our social lives did not need to be actualized. They did not need to be made more efficient. And we're applying like capitalist logic to our relationships with each other, with ourselves. It's f***ing insane. It really, really is. And it's going completely unchecked. And the decisions are being made by people who have no idea what the actual repercussions of it are, or even the participants are doing. You make Snapchat as a service where a photo can disappear for 24 hours. What do you think kids are using that for? What do you think 12-year-olds are using for? You're creating a place to host child pornography.
Basically.
Period.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry.
No, it's it's everywhere, and it is something we don't talk about it. In part, I think, because it moves so fast, and you're right. Like we have the people who have control of it, even if they do, whether they do or don't know what's happening, they act like they don't know what's happening. At least when they get called out on it.
They don't.
Yeah.
Zuckerberg versus the senators? Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
They don't. They have no idea. It's gonna be like smoking. In 50 years, they're gonna go, what did we do to these kids? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you want to get the word, if you want to get the word shit on television, you have to go in front of the Senate. The safeguards to the internet are you 18 and you click yes.
Right.
Sorry, it gets me emotional. Sorry.
No, it's very upsetting for sure. And I thought the way the scenes in the film where she's just in her room alone and she has her laptop on and her phone on and just like watching the scroll happen. And what to me was particularly striking, because it's not, I dabble in social media, but like it was so striking that it was all other children.
Well, you know what? What's scary is that it's not. It's also Haley Steinfeld that they're making look like a 13. Oh, I'm saying too much. It's not all children. It's Demi Lovato. You know what I mean?
Oh, sure.
And she's 26, and I love Demi Lovato. Truly, truly love Demi. I
Yeah.
love Haley too. I do not blame any of the people caught in this dog culture. I'm sorry that this is becoming so rude. It's also Jimmy Fallon drinking green stuff, which no one will ever know the meaning of that to me personally. But yes, it is children. But it's also the image of the Instagram feed, the Twitter feed. What's so surreal about it is scroll through it and you will see in no particular order your mother, your friend, your president, your dentist, Old Spice. You know what I mean? And these are all... And no wonder the conversations that culturally and nationally now feel like they're the same thing. We're having one conversation. This is the problem with democracy. This is the problem with the free internet. I'm sorry, it shouldn't be this free. I think there should be regulation. I don't think you should be able to be on the internet freely until you're 18. And that's like, I guess I'm a Quaker, I don't care. I don't, it's like not okay. It really isn't. She shouldn't be able to Google how to give a blowjob. You know what I mean? It's funny, but it's not all right.
Yeah.
But again, the internet, I mean, the movie is not trying to portray that judgment.
Right.
Just kind of like, what is happening?
Yes.
You know, and what's happening is not like selfie, you know what I mean, just like how the generation is described, like self-involved, when it's like, self-involvement is bad. You know, we're self-involved people in solitary confinement. Like that's self-consciousness. I'd love to think about something else. I'd love to be tilling a field. What an awful answer.
Okay. We're
I know, I'm so sorry. I think I almost started crying. I got very blindsided.
sorry,
No, it was
but
my
I
own
thought
fault.
it was good. So, all right, I'm gonna
My
do.
ears are hot.
We'll do one last question before we move to questions from the audience.
Great.
Can you talk about some things you have coming up, so we can sort of know what you're... I know you have a project that I believe Amy York Rubin is going to be directing.
Yes,
I
yes.
love her.
Yeah, she's the best. She's
her
amazing.
show, Little Horrible.
Yes, incredible, right?
I teach that in my web
Oh,
series
really?
class.
Oh, incredible.
I love her.
Yes, so I wrote a script a while ago. We're changing the title, so probably don't even say the title. But it was a specific sort of... It was written by a 21-year-old in 2011 with very good intentions, but needs some updating to be in 2018. And I sort of realized after the fact that, I mean, after this movie was made and then that was being re-examined to be made, I sort of realized this is not my story to tell, and I want someone else to tell it.
I think you picked a good one.
Yeah, and she's incredible, so I'm very, very excited about that. That's so awesome. And she's someone who's incredible with performance. That
Yes.
Little Horrible is the performance of those are
yeah.
incredible. So, but yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. I'm just gonna like bang my head against a wall and see what, you know, I kind of have to just, I'm just reading and watching movies and trying to chill out.
Yeah. Do you have any movies that are, I don't know, or filmmakers who are inspirational to you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm like a loser, like, I'll say the current ones, you know what I mean? Like, Julia Ducournau's Raw was like huge for me, and that came out a year and a half ago. Like,
Yes.
I'll be the, you know, I probably a bunch of losers here, but like, it's not cool to say PTA, but I love PTA, you know what I mean? Like, it's like everyone wants to pretend like they're not influenced by him. It's like, of course you are. Yeah, I mean, Andrea Arnold, Krisha,
Yes.
Trey Edward Schultz's movie was huge for me in this. You know, Cassavetes and that stuff, and, you know, Woman Under the Influence. But like now, I mean, Steve McQueen's probably my favorite.
Okay.
I sort of worship him. Greta, you know? Barry, I mean, the Safdies. My girlfriend's a director.
Oh,
But I won't say her name.
okay.
To keep it private, but yeah.
Oh, great.
A lot of people. I'm like super, you know what I mean? I'm not going like John Ford. I wish. I'm like kind of self-conscious about my lack of knowledge of film history. I should be. But like, I feel like we're in a really incredible time
I would
for movie making.
Yeah.
And I think it is more, I think the experience of being in the theater is really relevant and is not going away just because how desperate we are for an hour and a half where we don't have to look at our phones. It's so simple, but like, and like, it means something different when she's on this big screen. It means emotionally something different to subjugate yourself before. To go like, no, like, fuck you. Oh, why am I keep saying? Screw you, man. Like, she deserves to be up here as anybody. She deserves to be big and, you know, you should sit in front of her image.
Face.
Yeah, exactly. That's the power of it, you know, and that is what I take away from the film. I mean, that is what I'm happy about. Like, I got to be part of a movie that Elsie Fisher is the star of. Like I don't really give a shit what happens after it. Truly, truly.
That's beautiful. All right, thank you. We're gonna shift to audience questions, and you need to be really obedient and line up. And there's gonna be a mic, and I believe is that way.
This is a cool setup.
Isn't it nice?
It's nice. So how do you teach from there?
I do. Well, yeah. Like I wander. This all is gone,
Right, of course.
and then I just like wander around up front.
What does it hold? Like 175? 2?
I feel like it's like maybe closer to like 150.
Okay.
Yeah. But
And this is all like fully done for sound and stuff?
yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah, this whole visiting artist program is really incredible. Like,
Yeah.
it's a nice setup.
Is this relatively new? All this, like, this room?
I mean, it's been here for at least 8 years,
Yeah.
so that's all. That's about the extent I know of it. Yeah. All right, are we ready?
I am.
I'm,
Oh my God, you're all lit up. I'm so
Yes.
sorry.
Oh, it's fine. Hey.
Look at the T-shirt, Rick and Morty.
I know, yeah. I wanted to say I'm a big fan of your work, but also I absolutely love Elsie because I love that I saw an 8th grader, like someone in school in a movie who reminded me of what I looked like at that time.
Yeah.
But my question was, I love her so much. How much like guidance did you give her for the YouTube videos? Like how much did she improvise or like did she come up with her own concepts for those too?
No, I mean, to her credit, it's way more written than it appears. You know what I mean? It was written like, I mean, part of the writing process was just watching these videos and trying to transcribe them on the, could I capture the way, this like staccato way they spoke on stage, which is, so yeah, it's the thing about being yourself is, yeah, well, sorry, I'm reading this off a piece of paper. It was written like that.
Yeah.
So to say it was improv would not be giving her credit. It is a technical performance. I wasn't making like Homeward Bound or Babe. You know what I mean? It wasn't like, all right, just be you and I'll figure out what the movie is. Like, of course there was leniency within the words and the text to, you know, if you stumble, if you forget it, great. I only had to read the script once, and they would just give her the pages on the day, just so you know, just so it was fresh. But yeah, it was. Again, it's not to say like I'm not trying to be crazy authorial about it. It's to say like her performance is. I think because she's young, people can just think, oh, that's just her vibing out, and then you captured it. Like no, she is really snapping into that and giving a technical performance, and then yeah.
Awesome, thank you.
I appreciate it. Thanks for coming.
hello.
Hi.
Hi.
I was struck by your discussion of like capitalism, the people in Silicon Valley who benefit from reinforcing harmful social media onto all of our children and everything. You're clearly somebody who's thought about this a lot. My question is, how do you suppose we make this better? Or like, how do we not make our kids' lives hell anymore? Because
I don't know. I mean, you guys know. Like, it will be. I think eventually it will work out. I don't know if it will. Truly, I don't. I defer to you guys more. I mean, what I'm like. I defer to you. Know it better than I do. You're within it, so. I don't know. Get power and speak it in the room, or I don't have the solution. If I had the solution, I would have solved it or tried to. I'm saying I'm just trying. I'm only trying to be like diagnostic, not the word that means solving the disease. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I don't know. I just feel like this is the conversation. These are the questions that I haven't heard people say, and I can't solve it monologuing. You know, it just hopefully a conversation. So, what do you think? Truly.
oh God, I don't know. It's the whole gag of it is that neoliberal capitalism has made us into a culture that like.
You are in college. I love it. I love it. I love it. It's great.
Our entire
Great.
culture is predicated on like work and this notion of like linear time, and then we get
Rock on, rock on. I'm telling you, rock on. Trust me. Do not let me shame you for pushing your thoughts out. Please.
Oh my
It's
God,
the
me
best.
uplifted.
That's great. No, I only say like the world will beat you down and then you'll not want to think freely anymore.
Absolutely.
But this is good.
And it benefits people at the top for us to not talk about this.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
So-
well, and specifically, it is what's impossible to. They own the mode of communication. How do you criticize the internet on the internet?
Yeah.
And even that, I mean, it's impossible. And also, what is called for on the internet is subtler, longer form conversations. I
Yeah.
mean, there's great stuff about the internet. I mean, the internet can really give visibility to people that don't have it. It can cause really great social movements. We're not going to out-tweet Trump. He is Twitter. He is the medium. We're not going to solve a national conversation by passing fortune cookies to each other. You know what I mean? So, I don't know. They have a vested interest in not obviously interrogating the medium itself. It's really hard when the thing we're talking about is the medium by which we connect and communicate with each other. So. I don't know, like let's start some drum circles or but keep thinking and appreciate your question.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Peace.
Hi. Well, first, I'm still in 9th grade, and I want to say that movie is very accurate.
Oh, awesome.
And like, I felt the anxiety, and like, I personally struggle with anxiety,
Oh, yeah.
and like, seeing someone else that I look up to like struggle with anxiety can make me feel less alone.
Oh, that's awesome.
So, and I was wondering, as a filmmaker myself, do you prefer writing or directing?
Do you write as well?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. What do you do? Do you like short films or what do you
Short
do?
films,
That's
yeah.
awesome. That's so cool. What do you like to shoot? What do you shoot on and things? Do you just do it with your phone?
My mom's a professor at DePaul, so sometimes we can have like past students help us with
Oh, wow, that's
cinematography and
incredible.
stuff.
That's so cool. So Elsie, the actress, is in 9th grade now. So you were in 8th. We're kind of making it about your 8th grade, kind of, because we shot it the summer of last year. I don't know. They're enjoyed in different ways. Do you like writing? Do you enjoy
I love
doing it?
writing.
Yeah,
but, like,
it's a nice little dynamic to maintain, I think, an ability to work with other people and enjoy being around other people and enjoying being with yourself. I mean, whatever job you're doing, it's good to maintain a sense of yourself and yet also a sense of other people and to be able to be happy in both, because life's going to be full of both, of being alone and being around other people, being alone when you don't want to be and being around other people when you don't want to be. So, but yeah, I mean, just keep doing it. It's awesome. What's your name?
Manhattan.
Manhattan. Great to meet you.
Nice
Good
to
luck
meet
with
you.
everything. I hope we run into
Thank
each
you.
other. Peace.
Hi. Okay, so the scene that really like stood out to me and meant the most to me and caused like the biggest reaction from the audience was the one where they're in the car alone with the boy.
Yeah.
And I found that I'm just really glad that you put that in there because it does start at such an early age of like that situation.
Yeah, of course.
And so I was wondering what the personal connection to that type of narrative is to you and why it became a scene in this film in particular.
Yeah, so being with someone in a position of power and being taken advantage of is not foreign to me. Also, what is not foreign to me, if I'm being very honest with myself, which I think men need to do now, is not the specific situation, but the sort of toxic young male behavior that prioritizes your own needs over communicating or even the existence or humanity of the person across from you. What was important was, to me, in the film, a few things. One, a lot of the scenes before them are very intense and felt, but we can kind of pull ourselves away from it and go, yeah, it's a pool party, it's going to be fine. But to show that she is actually coming into contact with real high-stakes adult situations. And, even though the boy masturbating in class is funny, it's actually not funny. Like this stuff, sex teen comedy is an oxymoron, truly. Sex teen comedy is a very male term when you think about it. Only boys could probably find teen sex only funny. But also to portray a type of situation that on paper may not seem like a big deal. What, he went to the back seat and asked you a few questions and touched your arm, you said no and he left, and nothing wrong happened. But when you follow it in real time and feel it with her, you feel how violating and emotionally violent it is. And that is the truth, the felt, lived, subjective truth of what's happening. And what I hope in talking to these kids, and a realization I had in just examining my past life and looking at kids is, this national conversation that's happening around these issues is very good. I hope it can ground itself in education because, we teach kids how to put a condom on, but we don't teach them how to be in a relationship, how to be a boyfriend, how to be a girlfriend, how to actually consent with each other. It's like really ridiculous. Like there's a lot of anatomy classes, and kids can get to a situation knowing how to use a contraceptive and not knowing anything about what needs to be articulated, what the stakes are, the value of this, the power that's happening, the power each of you have in that situation. And it's terrifying. I mean, what's so terrifying to me about that scene is that she's one after another just encountering the first thing. It's just first time after first time, and she isn't able to even get her bearings. And he's not even allowing consent to be an issue because it's not a big deal. What are you kidding? I'm just joking around. Stop taking this so seriously. So that was the hope it happens. We try to approach it honestly. I was very communicative with Elsie and her father who were there, and and Elsie is also a very strong person that she's a strong actor that knew the intent of the scene, knew the purpose of the scene, knew what being a part of it would mean to someone watching it, not just the girls watching it, but hopefully the boys. I hope 16, 17-year-old boys, any boy can see that and re-examine their behavior a little bit. But yeah, so that's sort of that, but I appreciate the question, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Bo.
Hey.
So I want to ask. So probably echoed through the audience. I'm a big fan of your comedy work, and by the end of Make Happy, you almost went off to creating experimental performance art. And I want to ask, going into the creative process of 8th grade and having this, because you mentioned at the music box yesterday that your script was way less improvised than it seemed. So I want to ask, by the end of the energy you had at Make Happy, that unique quality of control, how were you able to carry some of that onto the process of 8th grade, or were some limitations you found yourself with?
Yeah, it's a great question. If I'm understanding it correctly, I do have very particular control. I'm very particular about things, very micromanagey. But of course, the world of a film is very free, and the managing that I was doing, that I was so desperate to let go of, was the satirical, ironic, cynical managing of things, where I'm going to take the culture and I'm going to deconstruct it, and I'm going to tell you what's bullshit. And I just don't think that has any teeth now. I mean, it hasn't had teeth for a while, but especially now. Satirize the internet. Just try. What are you doing? You know what I mean? It's literally like the Showtime. There's a show on whatever. There's a cartoon show about Trump. It's like a cartoon of Trump. What the fuck? What could that possibly? The internet and the culture feels self-satirizing, feels self-ironic. The most ironic thing you'll find is an Old Spice commercial is being like. Do you know what I'm saying? It's like Geico. Geico commercials sound like The Simpsons, so that's dead to me. So I just wanted to be gentle and honest and vulnerable. And if I'm being truly honest about my feelings with the internet, it wasn't angry, didactic. Yeah, this sucks. This sucks. It was like, I feel nervous. I feel confused. I feel like her.
Thank you.
That's a version of an answer.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Hi, so within the movie in the beginning, Elsie seemed like there was no outlet she could really hang her hat on. And I think she turned to YouTube with her Gucci videos. And it feels like there was really no sense of self-love until that conversation with her father, near the fire where they embraced, and it was so beautiful. Should there be some message taken from this, or potentially could be that you don't need any numerical number of likes, number of views. The only person who can validate you is you.
Your father. After this lovely conversation, that's the point of it. Well, there's definitely not a message I'm trying to give, or if I am, I'm not going to say it. But I think there's self-love in those videos. You know what I mean? Before then, I think there's a lot of self-love in that. And I mean, her saying, I'm going to pretend to be confident and doing that karaoke video, I mean, that means the most to me out of everything in the movie. But yeah, self-love. There's a good question. Self-love and is she giving it to her? Yeah, there's no message, and the father's really, truly just dusting her off and being like, "You got this." I really was very careful to not be like, it's not. Dad goes like, yo, no. I'm the weak one here. I was the one that was left with you when you were a kid. I had no idea what to do, and I thought we were screwed. and you just like were you incredibly. So like, don't you have this? But yeah, self-love, and you can go get likes, you can go get views. I mean, I wouldn't be here without that. It'd be very silly for me to say that you can't pursue that. But yeah, whatever message you get, man, that's a great interpretation. What you said. I don't want to resolve that. That's the beautiful thing about this stuff, is that like now the meaning of it gets to be made and crafted by the people to watch it. So
For sure.
whatever you think.
All right. Thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
Hi, so you've already said it, but what made you, a cis white man, decide to make a film about a cis white girl, and what made you choose a white girl over any other minority, or putting her in a whitewashed school, or putting her without as many minorities in the other movie?
Choosing to put her in a whitewash school?
No, not choosing to put her in a whitewashed school, but just saying that, like, what made you choose this character over a different character without getting into like Netflix's original On My Block or other things like that?
Not getting into what? Netflix? Sorry.
The Netflix original On My Block, not like making it like
Oh.
that, but like just what made you choose this character and what made you choose it from a girl's perspective?
Right. I mean, there was only so many disconnects from me personally that I felt before I felt like I had no business telling that story. I'm saying. The choice of it to be a girl wasn't fully conscious in the way I started doing it. Truly, it just felt right. I was very aware of my position as a man telling a woman's story, and I subjugated myself to the truth of what she was going through the entire time, deferred to her, deferred to the women around me. My girlfriend of 6 years is a writer-director that is the only person that is the eyes on my stuff as it's being written, so I trusted her to call bullshit on me when it wasn't going right. And part of it, if I can look back and say why did it end up being a girl, I didn't want to make a story that was nostalgic. I didn't want to make a story that was my own experience, and it being a girl sort of prevented it from being a projection of myself. And I don't know, I tend to personally connect with art and film that I do not demographically necessarily align with the lead characters. And I think that is the beautiful thing about art, that you can see yourself in other people and know that there are common experiences and emotions and feelings between people. As far as like the racial makeup of the school in the area, we went to that school and took kids from that school and that area, and that's what the story was, and that was the reality of that area. It can't service everything. I wish it could. It could service this experience of this girl. There can sometimes be a pressure for everything to service, and I wish it could, but I do think art's function hopefully is as an ecosystem of, and the ecosystem I hope is fully representational, rather than each thing needing to be perfectly representational. Some can be, but that wasn't possible logistically with what we were doing. And I didn't, honestly, from where I came from, I didn't feel comfortable at all speaking to a person of color's experience. So that's the answer.
All right, thank you.
Appreciate it.
All right, that was the last question.
Great.
And thank you all for coming today. And if you would please, do you want to say something?
No, thank you.
Oh,
Just
yeah,
thank you for coming.
let's
Thank you for being
give Bo another round of applause.